What's going on, folks? So here's another video about David Wilcock. I have not been paying attention for probably 8 years to anything this man has said or done. We're all at different stages of our awakening, so this David Wilcock character came onto my radar probably around 2012, and I listened to a couple of things he would talk about. Most interestingly for me, he came up talking about ley lines and stone circles and stuff, and the fae and gnomes and all that kind of magical stuff. So I had to listen to what he had to say. My previous partner was into Gaia TV and all that stuff, but she wasn't awake. So anyway, on the research front, here's some more information about David Wilcock. If you didn't know, he passed away yesterday, end of April 2026. Apparently shot himself in the head. And the story, I was listening to Mika Dank talking about this earlier. The story is interesting. It's interesting to me anyway. So apparently it was a 5-hour standoff on his front porch, which is more than, just coming out on the porch and shooting yourself in the head. That's 5 hours in front of the cops. Apparently the cops were trying to take him off to a mental hospital, which is not a good thing. However, I did find some information here that I'm going to share on my channel and read it out. So let's read this. These are not my words. This is from a guy called Ryan Daniel. I'm just going to turn this off here. Right, let's read this out for you. David was 1.4 to 5 million in debt to the IRS. He also had thousands in other debts. His house was virtually unsellable because he pissed in the bathtub and sink and trashed the kitchen, garage and hot tub, which led it to becoming infested with rodents and insects. He destroyed his health, particularly his digestive system, by taking horse paste. His wife left him a few years back, if not for the public berating of her on YouTube, because he gave their millions to an aerospace company called Stravati Aero, which is facing multiple legal challenges, most notably a 2023 federal civil RICO lawsuit, Dimitrov versus Stravati Aerospace Limited, alleging fraud, racketeering, and that the company operated as a Ponzi scheme. Investors and contractors have sued the company for non-payment and misleading investment claims, alongside allegations that it failed to produce promised aircraft or prototype in 30 years. They have a 3D printed models and tried to sell missiles to the public on Black Friday. David has done nothing on his live streams but ramble about incoherent nonsense mixed with complaints about his life, and then 30 seconds later about how he's never felt better, followed by 30 seconds later by how he doesn't know if he's going to make it. The guy was talking to animals because he isolated himself in the middle of nowhere, and he streamed those interactions with the animals where he switched in and out of characters that might have been alternate personalities. They were certainly projections of his own insecurities, including the one where he does his angry father telling him that he's an idiot and should get a real job. He thought that animal control leaving a card on his door over his reportedly abused dog was a swatting event. He thought that people not completely agreeing with him was an act of terrorism. He thought that the president was talking to him with secret codes and messages that only he could read. He promised people were going to physically and literally ascend out of their bodies and turn into rainbows in 2000, 2012 and 2025. He also promised hover cars and mass arrests and big disclosure of aliens. And he did this non-stop for decades. Yet literally none of it even remotely came true. So he always changed the story. A timeline shifted. His exposure stopped something. He claimed he was talking to the Archangel Michael, who told him to bathe in his own urine, and who evolved from the ancient Egyptian Ra. He also claimed to be the literal reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. He claimed he was forced to make a banana sandwich while he was also raped. His archangel prophecies and ascension promises never came true, and recently he finally acknowledged that he wasn't actually channeling something and that ascension did not happen. In other words, the truth helped push him over the edge. That's on top of the Corey Good fake insider story. The deposition proved that Corey never went to space because he admitted it. There was no secret space program or blue chickens. This obliterated a significant portion of David's credibility and ego. At Corey Good is now trying to exploit David's death. David was also taking very high doses of concentrated but legal substances in Colorado. How do I know all of this? Because I've been covering this guy for 13 to 14 years, because I did a report on him at a conference talking about how he had such a giant ego, and he wrote a massive blog post about how he didn't. After that, I started following what he did directly, and he blacklisted me from events. One conference I was able to get access to anyway, and in asking questions he accused me of being a terrorist. David was delusional and depressed. Rather than trying to get him help, his supporters pushed him deeper. His critics seem to be the only ones who care. Okay, well there you go, folks. Yeah. Someone else talking about David Wilcock. Is that his name? Yeah. David Wilcock, who's now dead. So obviously he doesn't sound like a friend. He sounds like an enemy. So maybe he's a bit biased, but maybe there's some truth in that. The guy doesn't sound awake for a number of reasons. When he mentions horse paste and bathing in urine, as if it's like, yeah, maybe the guy who wrote this is not awake. Let's have a look at this. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. He lives in Japan, apparently. So, some further information on David Wilcock. He does sound like a bit of a nutter, with the Archangel Michael and the QAnon stuff. Personally, I didn't know he was into the QAnon shit. And I didn't know he was talking to Archangel Michael. However, yeah, more information no doubt will surface. Everyone in the truth community is like, RIP. However, it turns out David Wilcock isn't a truther, wasn't a truther, wasn't awake, and was a fraudulent motherfucker talking about Archangel Michael and fucking QAnon. Do you know what I mean, folks? I mean, come on. So if you're really a truther in the truth community, you're calling out this shit as absolute fucking lies and deception. If you're really awake, you're not cheering on the fucking retards spouting about fucking POTUS. Anyway, that's my view on it. Yeah, there you go.